Good morning and welcome to another video. Today we are talking about my birth story with my eldest son. Now, I was a teen mother, and so I had my son when I was in high school. I was 17 years old, and as part of my maternity leave, I was required to write a paper on my birth story. And that was like my English homework for the week or the 2 weeks that I took off. We were allowed a 2-week maternity leave, and my homework for English class was to write my birth story. So I've kept that paper that I wrote in high school all these years, and I haven't read it in quite a long time. Today is the 11th anniversary of my due date with my son, and I thought it would be fun today to kind of celebrate the occasion by going back and reading this on camera and reacting real time to my high school teen mom self telling my story. Now, disclaimer, I'm telling my birth story, and birth is graphic. And so if you're squeamish about that at all, now's a good time to go ahead and click away, because I mean, I try not to be vulgar, but I'm also very truthful and open with the things that happen to me and medical type things. I'm gonna tell you the whole story. So if that's a thing, like, just click away now, because we're gonna get into it, okay? So here we go. Okay, The Birth Story of Daniel Joe is the title to this here lovely paper. I had my first contraction at 7:36 p.m. At first, I didn't think anything of it because I had been in false labor 3 times already. After a few contractions, I knew that they were different. I went upstairs, told my dad I was having contractions, and then I thought I'd be having the baby soon. I laid in bed in pain for another hour when, okay, so, I feel like I don't really want to say baby daddy's name on here. His name is in here, but we're going to change it for the purposes of, is it mean to call him just baby daddy? I don't, we're going to call him John. How about that? Okay. I laid in bed in pain for another hour when John called. I told him we were going to have a baby that night. He went into a panic and said he was coming right away. So this is so funny because every other time I called him and like said that I was having contractions, he was so chill about it and so like, no, you're not, it's fine, I'm sure it's just a false alarm, like calm and like not believing that I was really in labor, which I wasn't. This time I called him and he freaked out. Like, I'm coming right now. I'm going home to get my stuff. He had just gotten off of work. I'm going home to get my stuff and I'll be right there. Like, because we lived 2 hours away from each other. It was a long distance relationship, blah, 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 blah. And so, and he would tell me all the time, like, I'm not coming until you're really in labor and it's like a sure thing and the doctor says that they're keeping you at the hospital. And I told him that I had 3 contractions and he freaked out. Anyway, so that was just a fun little side story. That isn't really in here. Okay, so he said he was coming right away. He stayed on the phone, talked me through contractions the whole way to my house. His parents came a little later and got a hotel room because of the hospital. Okay, John stayed with me, and every time I had a contraction, asked if I was ready to go to the hospital. That was another thing too. Like, my contractions were like 7-8 minutes apart, you know, like strong, consistent, but not close enough together or strong enough to go to the hospital. And every single time I had a contraction, he would freak out and be like, let's go to the hospital, let's go to the hospital. And I was like, it's not close enough yet, I'm fine. Finally, at 1 a.m., I decided I was ready to go to the hospital. We got our stuff ready, woke my parents up. They freaked out a little and got ready. That was another thing. Like, I had gone upstairs and told my dad, that I was having contractions and that I felt like it was like the real thing. It was different this time. And he did not tell my stepmom. I stayed downstairs in my room, like went upstairs, told my dad, went back to my room. Baby daddy showed up. Stepmom like had no idea. She was like, why is he here? Like, what is happening type of thing. She didn't really know. And so like him and I talking and like me having contractions and us talking downstairs, my room was right below my parents' room. was keeping my stepmom up all night. But she didn't know that I was in labor. And so she was like irritated this whole time that I was talking and keeping her up. And didn't really know that I was actually in labor. And so she totally freaked out when we came upstairs and said, like, it's time to go to the hospital. She was like, what? What do you mean it's time to go to the hospital? If I'd known that you were in labor, she's like, I would have been, like, up doing stuff. I'm like, I don't know what stuff there was to do. But anyway, that was just a little funny thing. On the way to the hospital, John called his parents and I called my birthing coach, my birthing coach is my best friend, since baby daddy was 2 hours away. I had my best friend go to birthing classes with me and all of that. They all met us in the emergency room, got checked in, they wheeled me up to labor and delivery. I was dilated to 2.5. They said my contractions weren't long enough, apparently. I wrote apparently in this paper. So they made me walk. They made me walk around the hospital in this hideous robe for an hour. Y'all probably, if you've had a baby, know about that hideous robe. Anyway, I wasn't dilated anymore when I was done with that, so they decided to send me home to, I have in quotes, get some sleep. Sorry, I find this funny. As if I could sleep through this. I was a little snarky teenager, in case you couldn't tell. My doctor gave me a prescription for Ambien, and I went home. He went to the hotel with his parents so he could get some sleep, and I went to bed. But I hurt too bad to sleep even with the Ambien. So this is kind of when, like, his freaked outedness slowed down, and he was like, I'm gonna tap out for this part. Like, you go do your thing. Call me when the real stuff is happening. My contractions slowly but steadily got worse all night. And by the way, like, so Ambien's a sleeping pill if you don't know. I took the Ambien. I went home. I would sleep between contractions, but the contractions were bad enough that I was still waking up with every contraction. And so, I mean, I still didn't really get any sleep, but at least I was able to pass out in between them. So anyway, my contractions slowly but steadily got worse all night. My parents finally came down to check on me at 9 a.m. At that point, they said I needed to go back to the hospital, but I didn't want to go through the whole production again just to get sent home. I told them I wanted to wait a little while longer, so they agreed. John called to find out how I was doing and when we were going back to the hospital. I told him I was going to take a shower and see how I felt. I got in the shower and that made it feel a little better. Finally, at 11 a.m., I was ready to go back to the hospital. We left all our stuff in the car the night before so we wouldn't have to pack it up again. I called John and told him to meet us there. I decided to wait to call anyone else to make sure that they were going to keep me there this time. We got there, checked in, and they wheeled me upstairs in the labor and delivery waiting room. I was surprised to see my old youth pastor. Oh, that was another funny story. My youth pastor and his wife had a baby. My old youth pastor, this is like from church that I grew up in when I was way young. They had a baby on the same day that I had. He was even more surprised to see me because it had been a while and he had no idea that I was pregnant. They got me all settled in my room again. This time I was dilated to 4. I was still progressing really slow, but they decided to keep me there. I called my birthing coach and my grandparents. My grandma had to go to work and couldn't come until later. So, they did, I remember at this point, they said, well, we could send you home again because you're not really progressing far enough, or we could induce you, give you Pitocin, and keep you here. So at that point, I was like, no, I am not going home again. Like, I mean, so they made me get up and walk to help move things along. Then I got in the jet tub for a while to help the contractions. After that, the doctor came to check on me. I was dilated to 5. She gave me some Pitocin to make my contractions stronger. Shortly after, I got an epidural. 5 minutes later, I was feeling great. I couldn't feel the contractions anymore. Okay, so this is another, like, side note. I think that they had my epidural up way too high. Because I was way more out of it and numb than I should have been. Like, I couldn't feel anything. I was unable to feel my legs. An hour later, they kept falling off the bed, and I would just laugh because I couldn't move them. Since I was feeling better, they made me try to sleep. I dozed on and off for a few hours. When the nurse came back to check on me, I was starting to feel a lot of pressure. She said I was dilated to 8. Anyway, my grandparents arrived and were excited that they hadn't missed much. My grandma wouldn't leave my side after that. At 8 p.m., I was finally dilated to 10. They called my doctor, told her I was ready. And fun fact, I didn't have a doctor, I had a midwife, so I don't know why I have that in there, but anyway. At 8:30, I felt him coming out, and my doctor still hadn't arrived. John's mom ran to get the nurse. She came in, turned me over to check what was going on. Gotta turn the page. And my bag of water was sticking out. My doctor walked, again, I don't know why I said doctor here. I did not have a doctor, I had a midwife. My midwife walked in right as my water broke. She looked and said I was ready to push. Daniel had pooped while he was inside, so they had to call a pediatrician to be there for the birth. So there was meconium in my amniotic fluid, so they had to call a pediatrician. The pediatrician on call was a man. He's, fun fact, still my kids' pediatrician. Everyone got ready and I started pushing. My grandma held one leg and my birthing coach held the other. My stepmom just watched, and John's mom took pictures and kept everyone waiting outside updated. John stayed up on my head and helped me push. So that was a fun thing. My stepmom was across the room, like directly in front of me, and she was supposed to be like my focal point, like my person to concentrate on. Worst idea I've ever had in my entire life, because she's over across the room like, oh, he's coming, I see that, like her face, you guys, not even joking, like 1,000 miles an hour, every expression, and I'm like trying to focus and trying to push, and she's like, oh, he's here. Like, so anyway, when his head started showing, the first thing everyone said was, he has hair. He did have a lot of hair. I did not really care though. I just wanted him out. My doctor kept trying to get me to touch his head, but I wasn't about to do it. She did. She was like, you want to touch him? You want to feel? I was like, nope. After 25 minutes of pushing, she said I might need an episiotomy. She said he would come out without one, but it would be 10 more pushes and only 2 pushes with one. So I picked 2. At 9:14, he finally came out with the cord wrapped around his neck, his body, and his leg, and he was screaming right away. The pediatrician took him right away to make sure he was all right. I started crying, and so did everyone else. Then the placenta came out. The doctor showed it to me. That was pretty gross. That says that. Pretty gross. It was almost 30 minutes before I was able to hold him. He was fine, and that's what matters. I cried even more when they handed him to me. Everyone left the room, so John and I could have time with him. I fed him, and after about an hour, people started coming back in. All the grandparents, great-grandparents got to hold him and take a million pictures. Slowly, everyone made their way out. After everyone left, John helped the nurse give Daniel a bath. I was so tired that I slept through most of it. Finally, at 2 a.m., they moved me to my recovery room. One of the baby nurses took Daniel to the nursery so that we could get some sleep. I was happy. I was finally going to get to rest, but the nurse comes in and tells me I have to go eat something. I was hungry, but I was more tired. After barely making it through a toasted cheese sandwich, I was actually able to go to sleep. That's another fun fact. They were like, you have to eat, but instead of bringing me a snack, they sent baby daddy to the cafeteria, because it's like a hospital with a 24-hour cafeteria, to get me something to eat. I hate grilled cheese and tomato soup. He comes back with grilled cheese and tomato soup. I was like, what is this? And he told me that was the only thing that they have down there that you would eat. And I said, I'm pretty sure this is the only thing that they have down there that I won't eat. but I was so tired at that point. I didn't even care. I choked down the sandwich and like went to sleep because I was like, if they're gonna make me eat before they let me fall asleep, I will eat this nasty sandwich. But I was not happy about it. Anyway, so that is my birth story with my eldest child. Happy due date to him. His birthday's in 5 days. He was 5 days late. I know I didn't have any of the dates in there, but I guess I assumed that my teacher knew. For watching, subscribe, like this video, and I will see you